The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched for nearly a mile in every direction. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Thousands of seats filled the curved walls, each one holding a delegate from a different species. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had bodies made of living crystal. All of them had one thing in common. They all looked down at the small human standing alone in the center of the floor. Jack felt their eyes on him like a physical weight. He was 43 years old, with gray hair at his temples and lines on his face from years of difficult work. He had served as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 3 years now. In that time, he had learned many things about the galaxy. Most of those things were not pleasant. The chamber fell silent as High Counselor rose from his elevated seat. He was 12 feet tall, with blue skin and 4 arms. His people had ruled the council for 6,000 years. They were used to being obeyed. The matter before us today concerns the species known as humanity, announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. 5 standard years ago, they achieved faster-than-light travel and made contact with the greater galactic community. Since that time, they have been classified as a developing civilization under council protection. Jack kept his face calm, but his hands tightened into fists at his sides. Protection. That was what they called it. In truth, Earth had received nothing but demands and restrictions since first contact. Humanity was not allowed to expand beyond their own solar system. They were not allowed to trade freely. They were not allowed to develop certain technologies, all for their own protection, of course. The Council has reviewed humanity's progress, continued. We have determined that it is time for Earth to fulfill its obligations to the galactic community. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Jack saw many of them smiling. They knew what was coming. Delegate of the Dominion stood up. He was a reptilian creature with red scales and black eyes that held no warmth. They were known throughout the galaxy as conquerors. They had destroyed 17 species in their long history. Only their fear of the Council kept them from destroying more. The tribute must be paid, hissed. All young species pay tribute. It is the law. It has always been the law. Jack had read about the tribute system in the Council archives. When a new species was discovered, they were given a choice: pay tribute to the elder races or face the consequences. The tribute was always the same: 60% of all planetary resources, delivered annually to the Council for redistribution. It was slavery dressed up in fancy words. Ambassador said, looking down at Jack with cold, yellow eyes, "You will inform your government of the Council's decree. Earth will begin tribute payments within 1 standard year. Failure to comply will result in enforcement actions." Jack felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He had learned to control his emotions in this place. Showing weakness here was dangerous. These beings respected only strength. "High Counselor," Jack said, keeping his voice steady, "I request time to consult with my government before providing Earth's response." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Delegate made a sound that might have been amusement. "The human thinks he has a choice," said. "How amusing, how very amusing indeed." Raised one of his 4 hands, and the laughter stopped immediately. "You may have 30 standard days to consult with your government," said. "This is a courtesy we extend to all new tribute species. Use this time wisely, Ambassador. The Council does not respond well to defiance." Jack bowed his head slightly. It was not a bow of submission. It was simply acknowledgement. But the aliens around him saw what they wanted to see. They saw a frightened human accepting his fate. They were wrong. Jack left the chamber and walked through the long corridors of Prime. The planet served as neutral ground for the Council, a world built specifically for galactic governance. It was beautiful in a cold, perfect way. Jack hated every inch of it. His ship waited at the diplomatic dock. It was called the Pioneer, and it was one of Earth's fastest vessels. The crew snapped to attention when he came aboard. "Set course for Earth," Jack ordered. "Maximum speed." The captain, a woman named Amy Cole, nodded sharply. She was young but experienced, with short brown hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Sir, if I may ask," she said quietly, "what did the council decide?" Jack looked at her for a long moment. Amy had family on Earth, a husband, 2 children. Like billions of other humans, they were waiting to learn their fate. "They want us to pay tribute," Jack said. 60% of everything we have, every year, forever." Amy's face went pale, but she did not look away. "And if we refuse?" Jack smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Then they will try to take it by force." The Pioneer jumped to faster than light speed, leaving Prime behind. Jack stood at the observation window and watched the stars blur past. Earth was 3 days away at maximum speed. 3 days to prepare a response that would determine humanity's future. In Geneva, Admiral Laura was already waiting. She commanded Earth's defense fleet from a building that looked ordinary from the outside. Inside, it held secrets that would have shocked the Galactic Council. For 3 years, Earth had been preparing for this moment. They had known the tribute demand would come eventually. They had used that time well. Laura read the message from Jack's ship and smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had finally sighted her prey. She picked up her phone and made a single call. "Get me the president," she said. "Tell him it's time." Across the planet, in secret facilities hidden from alien sensors, men and women in uniform began moving with new purpose. Weapons systems came online. Ships that officially did not exist started their engines. Earth was waking up. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had looked at humanity and seen a weak, young species waiting to be conquered. They had not looked closely enough. Jack stood at the window of his ship and thought about what was coming. In 30 days, he would return to the council chamber. He would stand before those thousands of alien delegates once again, and he would give them an answer they never expected. The stars blazed around him, cold and beautiful and endless. "We are not afraid," he whispered to himself. "We have never been afraid." The Pioneer flew on through the darkness, carrying humanity's ambassador home to war. The United Nations Emergency Assembly met in a chamber deep beneath Geneva. The room had no windows. Its walls were lined with metal thick enough to stop any signal from passing through. This was where humanity made its most important decisions, far from alien eyes and ears. President Daniel Hayes sat at the head of the long table. He was 55 years old, with a calm face that rarely showed emotion. He had been a soldier before he was a politician. That experience had taught him how to remain steady when others panicked. Around him sat the leaders of every nation on Earth, prime ministers, presidents, generals, scientists. All of them were waiting for Ambassador Jack to speak. Jack stood at the front of the room, still wearing the same suit he had worn in the council chamber. He had not slept since leaving Prime. There was no time for sleep. "The council has given us 30 days to accept their demand," Jack said. "After that, they will send a fleet to enforce compliance. Based on their military records, that fleet will consist of approximately 2,000 warships." Murmurs filled the room. 2,000 ships. Earth's official fleet numbered only 40 vessels. The math was simple and terrifying. A delegate from one of the smaller nations raised his hand. "Perhaps we should negotiate," he said. His voice was shaking. 60% is harsh, but it is better than destruction. We could ask for a lower percentage, maybe 40%, maybe 30%. Several other delegates nodded in agreement. Fear was spreading through the room like a disease. Admiral Laura stood up. She was a small woman with gray-streaked black hair and eyes like chips of ice. She had commanded Earth's defense forces for 10 years. In that time, she had never lost a battle. "With respect," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade, "negotiation would be pointless. I have studied the tribute system for years. No species has ever successfully negotiated better terms. The Council does not compromise. They demand. They take. That is all they understand. Then what do you suggest? The frightened delegate asked. We cannot fight 2,000 ships with 40. Laura smiled. It was a dangerous smile. Who said we only have 40 ships? She pressed a button on the table, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed Earth's solar system in perfect detail, but the image was different from any public map. Hidden among the asteroids and moons were hundreds of red dots. For the past 5 years, we have been building in secret, Laura explained. We have 312 combat vessels hidden throughout the solar system. We have orbital defense platforms around Earth, Mars, and the Moon. We have weapons that the Council cannot even imagine. Shocked silence filled the room. Even some of the military leaders looked surprised. The secret had been kept very well. General Kate stood up next. She was tall and broad-shouldered, with short red hair and a face full of freckles. She led Earth's Strategic Operations Division. It gets better, Kate said. Our scientists have spent years studying every piece of alien technology we could get our hands on. We did not just copy it, we improved it. Our ships are faster than anything the Council has. Our weapons hit harder. Our shields last longer. She changed the holographic display to show a comparison chart. Earth's battleship, the Constellation, stood next to a Council heavy cruiser. The Council ship was larger, but the Constellation's specifications were superior in every category. We let them think we were struggling, Kate continued. We let them see what they expected to see. A young species barely able to fly between planets. They never looked deeper. They never imagined we might be smarter than they gave us credit for. President Hayes listened to all of this without speaking. When Kate finished, he slowly rose from his chair. The room fell silent. I have a question for everyone here, Hayes said. His voice was quiet but carried to every corner of the room. What kind of future do we leave our children if we bow today? No one answered. The question hung in the air. If we pay the tribute, Hayes continued, we will never stop paying. Our will be born into slavery. They're after them. For 1,000 generations, humanity will live on its knees. Is that what we want? The frightened delegate opened his mouth to speak, then closed it again. There was nothing to say. We did not climb out of the caves and cross the oceans and reach the stars so that we could become servants, Hayes said. We did not survive ice ages and plagues and wars so that we could surrender to the first bully who threatened us. We are human beings. We do not kneel. He looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes in turn. I say we fight. I say we tell the Council no. And I say we make them regret ever thinking we were weak. One by one, the leaders around the table began to nod. Even the frightened delegate slowly raised his hand in agreement. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not pay tribute. 27 days later, Jack walked back into the Galactic Council chamber. The same thousands of alien faces looked down at him. The same arrogant confidence filled the air. They expected him to kneel. They expected him to beg for mercy. High Counselor rose from his seat with a satisfied smile. Ambassador, he said, you have returned. We trust that Earth has made the wise decision to accept the tribute decree. Jack walked to the center of the chamber floor. He stood straight and tall, his hands at his sides. There was no fear in his eyes. There was only cold determination. High Counselor, Jack said, I carry the official response from the United Earth government. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was a translation matrix, designed to broadcast his words to every species in the chamber at the same time. Before I deliver our response, Jack continued, I want to make sure there is no misunderstanding. I want every delegate here to understand exactly what humanity is saying. He activated the device. A soft hum filled the chamber as the matrix connected to every translator in the room. Earth's response to the tribute decree is as follows. Jack took a deep breath. Around him, thousands of alien delegates leaned forward in anticipation. They expected a speech. They expected pleading. They expected negotiation. Instead, Jack looked directly at the High Counselor and spoke a single word. No. The chamber fell completely silent. Not a whisper, not a breath, nothing. Thousands of aliens sat frozen in shock. The translation matrix ensured that every single one of them understood perfectly. Humanity had said no. For the first time in 10,000 years, a young species had refused the Galactic Council. Jack stood alone in that vast chamber, surrounded by beings who could destroy his planet with a thought. And he did not flinch. He did not look away. He simply waited for them to understand what they were dealing with. The silence stretched on. And somewhere, far away, Earth's hidden fleet began to move. The silence in the Galactic Council chamber lasted for 47 seconds. Jack counted every one of them. He stood perfectly still in the center of the floor, watching thousands of alien faces change from confusion to disbelief to anger. High Counselor was the first to recover. The tall blue alien leaned forward in his seat, all four of his hands gripping the arms of his chair. "There must be a translation error," said slowly. "The matrix must have malfunctioned. Ambassador, please repeat your response." Jack shook his head. "There is no error, High Counselor. Earth's answer is no. We decline your tribute decree. We reject it entirely." The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates shouted in 100 different languages. Some rose from their seats in fury. Others sat frozen in shock. No species in living memory had ever the council so openly. Delegate of the Dominion pushed his way to the front of his section. His red scales seemed to glow with rage, and his black eyes fixed on Jack like a predator watching prey. "You dare," hissed. "You dare refuse the council. Your pathetic species will burn for this insult. The fleet will reduce your planet to ash within one standard cycle. Every human will die screaming." Jack turned to face the delegate. He should have been afraid. Species had destroyed entire civilizations. They had turned worlds into lifeless rocks, but Jack felt only calm. "Delegate," Jack said clearly, "I would advise you to reconsider your threats." Laughed, it was an ugly sound. "Reconsider? What will you do, little human? Your species has 40 ships, the alone have 800. The council fleet numbers in the tens of thousands. You have no power here. You have nothing." Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out a small communication device. "I have been waiting for you to say something like that," he said. "Allow me to share some information with the council." He activated the device, and a holographic display appeared above his head. It showed a map of space near Earth's solar system. 20 small dots were visible at the edge of the display. "These are Council scout ships," Jack explained. "They have been monitoring Earth's system for the past 3 years. Right now, they are reporting to the Council that everything is normal. Earth has its 40 ships. Earth has its basic defenses. Earth is helpless." Snorted. "Yes, we know. What is your point?" Jack smiled. "My point is that those scouts have been sending false reports for the past 18 months. We took control of their communication systems without them knowing. They have been telling you what we wanted you to hear." The chamber went quiet again, leaned forward. "That is impossible," the High Counselor said. "Our encryption is unbreakable." "Your encryption was unbreakable 10,000 years ago," Jack replied. "Technology advances, High Counselor, even human technology." He pressed another button on his device, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed Earth's solar system in detail. Hundreds of red dots appeared around planets, moons, and asteroid fields. "This is Earth's actual defensive network," Jack said. 300 warships, 50 orbital defense platforms, weapons capable of destroying anything you send against us. Murmurs swept through the chamber. Some delegates pulled out their own devices, trying to verify the information. Their faces went pale when they confirmed that Jack was telling the truth. Furthermore, Jack continued, as of 10 minutes ago, your 20 scout ships have been disabled. Not destroyed, disabled. Their crews are alive and unharmed. We could have killed them. We chose not to. Took a step back. For the first time, there was something other than arrogance in his eyes. You are bluffing, he said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Am I? Jack asked. He pressed another button. Commander Tors, please confirm. A new voice came through the chamber speakers. It was calm and professional. This is Commander Ben Tors of the Earth Vessel Constellation. I can confirm that all 20 Council scout ships have been disabled by precision strikes. Their weapons and engines are offline, but life support remains functional. We are standing by for further orders. Silence fell over the chamber once more, but this silence was different. This was the silence of fear. High Counselor slowly rose to his full 12-foot height. Ambassador, he said, do you understand what you have done? You have attacked Council vessels. This is an act of war. No, Jack said firmly. This is an act of defense. Your scouts were monitoring our system in preparation for an invasion. We simply showed them that such an invasion would be unwise. He stepped forward, and for a moment he seemed larger than his small human frame. Let me be very clear about something, Jack said. We did not destroy those ships. We could have. Our weapons are more than capable, but we chose mercy instead. Do you understand what that means? Did not answer, neither did anyone else. It means that we are not your enemies unless you force us to be, Jack continued. We do not want war. We want to live in peace. We want to trade and explore and grow, but we will not do it on our knees. We will not pay tribute to anyone, and we will not be bullied. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegate after delegate. You have a choice, Jack said. You can accept us as equals and begin a new chapter in galactic history, or you can try to destroy us and learn exactly how dangerous humanity can be. He paused. I strongly recommend the first option. For a long moment, no one moved. Then slowly, something remarkable happened. In the back of the chamber, a delegate from a small species called the stood up. They were gentle beings who had paid tribute for 8,000 years. Their representative was old and frail, but there was fire in his eyes. I support humanity, the old delegate said. His voice was thin but clear. I support anyone brave enough to say no. Another delegate stood, then another, then a dozen more. Species who had suffered under the tribute system for thousands of years were finding their courage. They were standing with Earth. Looked around wildly. This is madness, he shouted. The Council will not tolerate this rebellion. But even as he spoke, more delegates were rising to their feet. The balance of power in the chamber was shifting before everyone's eyes. Jack watched it all happen with quiet satisfaction. This was what humanity had hoped for, not just to resist but to inspire, not just to fight but to lead. The galaxy was changing. And it had started with a single word. High Counselor called for a recess. The chamber emptied slowly as thousands of delegates filed out, many of them still in shock. Some gathered in small groups to whisper about what they had witnessed. Others hurried to contact their home worlds with the impossible news. Jack remained where he was, standing alone on the chamber floor. He was tired. His body wanted sleep, but he knew the day was far from over. A side door opened and stepped through. The tall blue alien had left his formal robes behind. Without them, he looked almost ordinary, almost vulnerable. Ambassador said quietly, I would like to speak with you privately. Jack nodded and followed the High Counselor through the door. They entered a small room decorated with strange plants and soft lighting. 2 chairs faced each other across a low table. Please sit, said. There was no command in his voice now, only weariness. They sat across from each other in silence for a moment, then spoke. I have led the Council for 200 years, he said. In that time I have seen many young species come before us. Some were aggressive, some were peaceful, some were clever, some were foolish. But all of them, every single one, accepted the tribute decree in the end. He leaned forward, his yellow eyes searching Jack's face. Why did humanity say no? Your species is not stupid. You must have known the risks. You must have understood what the council could do to you. So why refuse? Jack considered the question carefully before answering. Because submission is death, he said. Maybe not death of the body, but death of the spirit. Every species that pays tribute stops growing. They become afraid to take risks. They become afraid to dream. After a few thousand years, they are just shadows of what they once were. He met eyes. We studied galactic history when we first made contact. We saw the pattern. Young species either submit and stagnate or resist and are destroyed. But we also saw something else. The species that resist are always remembered. The species that submit are always forgotten. Was silent for a long moment. You would rather die than be forgotten. We would rather die free than live as servants, Jack said. Yes. The High Counselor leaned back in his chair. Something like respect flickered in his alien eyes. Your species is more interesting than I realized, he admitted. Before Jack could respond, another door opened. A figure entered the room that made even rise quickly from his seat. The being was ancient. Jack could feel it without being told. The creature stood 7 feet tall, with silver skin and eyes that glowed with soft blue light. Its body seemed to shimmer at the edges, as if it existed only partially in this reality. Elders said. His voice held something Jack had never heard from him before. Fear. We did not expect you. The ancient being moved into the room with fluid grace, its glowing eyes fixed on Jack. Leave us, said Tu. The words were soft, but they carried absolute authority. Bowed deeply and hurried from the room without another word. Jack watched him go, then turned to face the strange creature. You are the human ambassador, said. It was not a question. I am, Jack replied, and you are one of the firstborn. Tilted its silver head. You know of us. I know the stories, Jack said. The oldest species in the galaxy. The ones who seeded life on countless worlds millions of years ago. Most people think you are just a legend. Most people are wrong, said. We are very real, and we have been watching your species with great interest. The firstborn moved closer to Jack. Its presence was overwhelming, like standing next to a star. Do you know why the tribute system exists? Asked. Jack shook his head. It is a test, said. We created it millions of years ago, not to collect resources. Resources mean nothing to us. We created it to find species worthy of joining us as equals. Jack felt his heart beating faster. A test? Yes. The tribute demand is designed to be unacceptable. Any species with true potential should refuse it. Any species willing to pay tribute forever is not worthy of the stars. His eyes glowed brighter. In 10 million years, only 7 species have passed the test. Your people are the 8th. Jack struggled to process what he was hearing. What happens to species that pass the test? They face new challenges, said. The elder races of the Council will not accept humanity easily. They have grown comfortable with their power. They will see you as a threat. Some will try to destroy you despite what happened today. We can defend ourselves, Jack said. Perhaps, replied. But defense is not enough. You must also build alliances. You must show the galaxy that humanity stands for something greater than its own survival. The firstborn reached out and touched Jack's forehead with one silver finger. Images flooded Jack's mind. He saw the galaxy as saw it. Thousands of species trapped in cycles of fear and submission. Billions of beings who had forgotten how to hope. Your single word of defiance has already changed more than you know, said. Other species are finding their courage because of what you did today, but this is only the beginning. The images faded. and Jack found himself back in the small room, breathing hard. "What do you want from us?" he asked. Smiled. It was a strange expression on that ancient face. "I want you to be what you are," the firstborn said. "Brave, stubborn, unwilling to accept limits. The galaxy needs that. It has needed it for a very long time." The ancient being turned and moved toward the door. "The council will reconvene soon. They will offer you a compromise. Accept it graciously, but do not stop there. Push for more. Not just for humanity, but for every species suffering under the tribute system." "Why would they listen?" Jack asked. Paused at the door. "Because I will support you publicly. No elder race will dare oppose a firstborn. Use that advantage wisely." Then the silver figure was gone, leaving Jack alone with the weight of everything he had learned. He sat down heavily in the chair. His hands were shaking. Humanity had passed a test millions of years old. They had drawn the attention of beings older than stars. They had become something more than just another young species struggling to survive. Jack thought about his home, about the billions of people waiting to learn their fate, about the children who would grow up in whatever future humanity created. "We will not fail them," he whispered to himself. "We cannot fail them." He stood up and straightened his suit. The council was waiting. The Galactic Council chamber was full again, but the atmosphere had changed completely. The arrogance that had filled the air before was gone. In its place was tension and uncertainty. Thousands of delegates waited to see what would happen next. Jack walked back to the center of the floor. He felt different now. The meeting with Elder had given him knowledge and purpose. He understood things about the galaxy that few beings ever learned, and he understood what humanity needed to do. High Counselor rose from his elevated seat. The tall blue alien looked older than he had before. The events of the day had shaken him deeply. "This session will now continue," announced. "In light of recent developments, the Council has reconsidered its position regarding humanity." Delegates stood up immediately. "The Council has not reconsidered anything," the representative shouted. "The humans have attacked our vessels. They have our authority. This cannot stand. I demand that we send the full fleet to destroy Earth immediately." Several other delegates murmured in agreement, but many more remained silent. They remembered the speeches from the earlier session. They remembered the smaller species standing up to support humanity. The old certainties were crumbling. "The Dominion is welcome to send its fleet against Earth," a new voice said, "but they will do so alone." Everyone turned to see who had spoken. Elder stood at the entrance to the chamber, silver skin glowing softly in the artificial light. The ancient being walked forward with calm purpose. Delegates scrambled to get out of its way, even took several steps backward. "This human speaks the truth," continued. "Humanity has passed a test that most species fail. They have proven themselves worthy of respect. The firstborn recognize Earth as an equal civilization." Shocked gasps echoed through the chamber. The firstborn had not endorsed a species publicly in over 1,000,000 years. This changed everything. Turned to face the assembled delegates. "Furthermore, the tribute system will be reviewed. This practice has outlived its usefulness. It was meant to test species, not enslave them. The elder races have corrupted its purpose." Raised his hand. "Elder, with great respect, this is a council matter. The firstborn have not involved themselves in governance for countless generations." "And perhaps that was a mistake," replied calmly. "We left the younger races to manage themselves, and they built a system of oppression. Now a species brave enough to say no has reminded us all of something important." The ancient being looked directly at Jack. "Ambassador, what does humanity want?" Jack took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for. "Humanity wants 3 things," he said. "First, we want recognition as a sovereign equal. We will not be classified as a developing civilization anymore." Nodded slowly, That can be arranged. Second, Jack continued, we want the tribute decree against Earth to be cancelled, permanently. We will never pay tribute to anyone. Agreed, said. In light of your demonstrated capabilities, the decree is withdrawn. Third, Jack said, and his voice grew stronger. We want the tribute system reformed for every species, not just humanity. The species who spoke in our support today have paid tribute for thousands of years. They deserve freedom too. Silence fell over the chamber. This was the demand that would meet the most resistance. The elder races had grown rich from tribute payments. Asking them to give that up was asking them to surrender power. Laughed bitterly. You ask too much, human. The tribute system is the foundation of galactic order. Without it, chaos would spread across the stars. Without it, species would grow and develop as they should, Jack replied. They would build and create and explore. Is that chaos, or is that simply life? He looked around the chamber at the thousands of faces watching him. Humanity did not come to the stars to rule over others. We came because we wanted to see what was out there. We came because we dreamed of meeting other beings and learning from them. The tribute system crushes those dreams. It teaches species to be afraid instead of curious. That is not order. That is a prison. The old delegate who had supported humanity earlier stood up again. I have paid tribute for 8,000 years, he said. My people have forgotten what freedom feels like. We have forgotten how to hope. The human is right. The system must change. More delegates rose to their feet. The species who had suffered the most were finding their voices at last. Elder watched it all with what might have been satisfaction. It seems the council has a decision to make, the firstborn said. You can cling to the old ways and watch your alliance crumble, or you can embrace change and build something better. High Counselor looked around the chamber. He saw the growing support for humanity's position. He saw the ancient firstborn standing as witness. He saw the fear in the eyes of the elder races as they realized their dominance was ending. Very well, said finally. The council will form a committee to review the tribute system. Representatives from all affected species will be invited to participate. Reform will begin within 1 standard year. Jack nodded. It was not complete victory, but it was a start. 3 days later, Jack stood on the observation deck of the Pioneer as it approached Earth. The blue and green planet filled the viewport, beautiful and fragile and strong. Admiral Laura was waiting for him when he landed. So was General Kate. So were thousands of other people who had gathered to welcome their ambassador home. President Hayes stepped forward and shook Jack's hand. You did it, Hayes said. You actually did it. We did it, Jack replied. All of us. Every person who worked in secret, every soldier who stood ready to fight, every citizen who refused to be afraid. He turned to look at the crowd around him. Ordinary people, families, children, all of them had been willing to risk everything for freedom. The galaxy is watching us now, Jack said. They want to see if we deserve the chance we have been given. They want to see if humanity is worth believing in. Hayes nodded. What do you think we should do? Jack smiled. It was a tired smile, but a real one. I think we should show them who we really are. That night, Jack stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city. The stars were coming out one by one. Somewhere among them, species that had been slaves for thousands of years were beginning to hope again. Somewhere among them, the firstborn were watching to see what humanity would do next. A young aide came to find him. She looked nervous. Ambassador, the president wants to know if you need anything. Jack shook his head. No, thank you. The aide hesitated. Sir, what happens now? Jack looked up at the stars. He thought about everything that had happened. The council chamber, the silence after his single word, the firstborn who had endorsed humanity, the species who had found their courage. Now, he said quietly, we prove we were worth believing in. The aide left him alone with the night sky. Jack stayed on that balcony for a long time, watching the stars and thinking about the future. Humanity had said no to an empire that ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. And the galaxy would never be the same.